Welcome back to Tap Tap Cast. It's been a while, Martine. I'm glad to see you.
It's been a while, Amanda. I believe the last time I saw you was in New Orleans. We've
Yeah,
uh,
it's been a while.
we've been on some trips. I had myself first Bologna, then I went to New Orleans just to see you and play
Just
NIC, I
to, yeah,
guess.
just to see me. Yeah.
Yeah, and there was a tournament or something. Then I went to Madrid, and then I went with Pogwash around Netherlands and Belgium, where we saw you again. Actually, we had
It's
dinner
true. That is
after.
true. We did see each other one more time, but we forgot to grab a photo, which was kind of a bummer. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. A busy Pokemon Go summer for the most part. I could not believe that you were in New Orleans, and then like basically 2 days later, yeah, you were in Madrid. I don't know how you sleep.
I don't think I did. I was awake for about 30 hours straight. But the same was with when I arrived in New Orleans. When I just arrived, I already had like 20 hours of travel, and then I met up with you guys, right? With you and I think it was Spriggles,
Yeah, yeah, sprinkles. Yeah.
yeah, and Phoebe as well. We just had another dinner and stuff. It was exciting, I guess.
Well, let's kind of go over some of the stuff that happened in the meantime. You competed at NAIC. You were
Correct,
a day two competitor. You did
correct.
well. Unfortunately for EU and for my top pick, you didn't make it all the way.
Hey, hold up. What about the other picks?
That is true. The only one of the forecasters who had their pick on to day two. So yeah, I was pretty happy about that. And also happy for Out of Pocket, who ended up winning the tournament. Really, really fantastic job by him playing fun and kind of funny in the awards ceremony thing
Yeah.
called Anna Sir. Yes,
and
sir.
then and then corrected himself. I didn't mean
Yeah.
to call you sir. I just call everyone that. Yeah, Pocket. I feel like he was a little bit down because a couple times he didn't
Hmm.
really manage to live up to his expectations,
Yeah.
and then winning NASC. Following up with Dash, his good friend, who's now I don't think he's playing much anymore. I think he did a stream a couple weeks ago, but that's
Yeah.
about it.
But I mean, like, I want to say that Out of Pocket, yeah, Pocket was sad about his not so stellar run, but one of those not so stellar runs was like a third place finish in Indianapolis. So it's not like he was doing horrible.
Yeah,
That's still like really, really impressive. But yeah, now saying that he's won an international championship, that does give him a little bit more clout.
it's he had high expectations. And then yeah, we had Go Fest Madrid. I caught 75 shiny at that event, and it
Dang.
was warm again.
Yeah.
Um, we both didn't go to New York, but I heard it was
Yeah.
super hot there as well. Did you go to New York last year?
No, no. I mean, like, honestly, usually I'm traveling or doing something for work during the actual
Hmm.
Go Fest. This year I'll be in Malta, so I'm kind of missing a majority of it again, which is
Wait, this weekend?
kind of, yeah, this weekend.
Oh man, you're missing on global as well.
I know, I know, I know.
Oh, putting your personal life above Pokemon.
How dare
I
I? Huh?
couldn't. I couldn't. Yeah. So those were the Go Fest we have with shiny Jangmo. You at least you can hatch them. I guess Niantic
Yes.
did that, so you can spend on incubators. I
I do
also
that anyway. I hatch eggs like crazy. I think like
really.
I'm one of the few people that have like I think over 100 of the the purple ones and also over
Uh huh.
100 of the regular ones. So
Really.
I'm constantly hatching at least 3 eggs at a time.
Okay, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Yeah. And then I have another exciting thing to tell you, Amanda. I have
Okay,
hit Legends, the highest rank in the Go Battle League. And you know what I got?
tell me.
A shiny Pikachu
No,
Libre.
you
It
didn't.
it is my first one. There's a Twitch live reaction even,
Okay,
and I made
okay.
a video about it as well. That's why I was
Yeah,
late
that
today.
just shows how not up to date I've kept on you. Well, congratulations on hitting legend. Um, I don't want to brag, Martine, but I hit veteran.
Wow, you're
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
better than Crimson.
I thought no, I thought he hit it, but then he ended up like going back down or something like that. Listen,
Oh,
remix is wild. I mean, like,
do you have a Giratina?
no, I don't. I do
Oh,
have
how
one,
unfortunate.
but it's got super cringe IVs. I think it's like 1461 or something like that, and then the next power up is 1503 or something. Something that's like right above
Wow.
the mark.
That so I played against an opponent who used a mirror team,
Yeah,
and he had a 1459. So his Giratina probably went to 1501 then.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, that
It
really hurts.
hurts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but I ask you truthfully, would you use it if you had that? IV spread, or would you just try to hold off and somehow wait until you can get a better one?
I mean, the entire past 3 months would have been different if I had
Yeah,
if I
yeah,
had a
exactly,
worse
exactly.
Giratina, right? So, um, maybe I would have on NASC then. I'm just
Yeah,
joking.
yeah. If only, if only.
Yeah, actually, Giratina was pretty good at
I
NASC.
mean, I mean, to be fair, today I had a really good day. I hit like I think I was won 19 games, so
Oh, out of 25, that's
out of
that's
25.
okay, easy now.
Yeah, yeah.
Next step, competing at a
Yeah,
regional.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
If I do that, like we talked about, we're doing like a fun like casters challenge, and I have to admit, I just kind of threw together some Pokemon. I'm like, oh, I know this did good in a tournament, and I didn't look at the team really. And then afterwards, when I'm playing against people, I'm like, this is
Hmm.
4 times weak to Bastiodon. This is
Hmm.
4 times weak to
And there were a
Chargebug.
couple. I think it's the
Yeah,
tournament.
yeah.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
This is not my tournament, but that just it means I'm getting all my losses out of the way before I compete next season.
Yeah, of course. What about locals? Are you gonna go to any of them soon?
Yeah, I will hope so. Like we got to get some started back up. I know for sure that Schman, the guy who does it
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times around the Antwerp region, he's a VG caster.
Mm-hmm.
He's doing a couple. I'm gonna try to make it to those. I have to talk to Outpost again, see if they're wanting to host us in Antwerp, and maybe I'll come beat up some Dutchies in the Netherlands if I hear there's a good tournament nearby.
You should come to. I think it is Leiden next week. I invited Leo as well. You could even stay over at my house for a night if you wanted to. So
All right.
I
Tempting
got a
offer.
microphone for my phone now, right?
Yep.
Because I want to do this vlogging thing, but I'm gonna try it out with my phone first.
Cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's kind of where I want to start. I'm not sure about Wednesday. We have a local this Wednesday, but there's also Dutch football, right? So I'm just gonna do 3 rounds real quick and then rush home. But Friday, maybe I'll try some more Amanda styled video.
Okay, yeah, yeah. I'm anxious to see how that will go for you. If
Yeah,
anyone
except,
can do it, it's you. I think you have an engaging personality, and people want to see the behind the scenes
but here's the
of this
thing:
PvP legend.
how do I record when I'm playing?
Yeah, it is.
That's
Yes,
kind of
that's usually why you need a secondary camera for this sort of thing. Because
yeah.
yeah, a lot of times if you're actually using the phone, or if you're doing like vlogging style stuff where you want to show that you caught a shiny
Hmm.
or you caught something cool, yeah, then how are you going to record that as well? Because you have to screen record, and
Yeah,
unless you really do it very inauthentically and pretend that you caught
yeah.
it in the moment.
That will work very well. It's just tough, right? Because like if I look into equipment, it's all adding up to like €1,000,
Yeah, yeah,
which
it ain't cheap, but
yeah, it's a lot for what's probably a hobby, and I'm not even sure if I'm gonna continue that a lot. So that's why I'm just not starting with the
yeah, that's
iPhone
fair.
microphone. Um,
Yeah, we can continue this conversation afterwards, but I think I might have an extra camera microphone for you. I'll see if I have anything.
ooh,
I'll see.
okay, okay.
But in the meantime, we talked about some winners that have gone on. We talked about out of pocket. We talked about how good you did. But there is another competitor who made a record this year. It's not Dunebug. He also made a record of winning 3 regionals one season. But this person, guess it if you're able, audience, is the first competitor to win a regional championship every single season.
Who is it?
Yeah, well, take a guess. No need to guess. It is Reis2Occasion.
Whoa!
Welcome in the Reis2Occasion. Thanks for being with us here on TapTapCast.
Good to see you, Rice. Yeah, how are you doing?
I'm great. I'm having a good day. Thanks so much for having me. Uh, yeah, glad to be here.
Are you having a good day because we asked you to join us?
Yes, I've been looking forward all weekend. Just couldn't stop smiling.
Well, we're smiling to have you as well. For those who maybe don't know who you are yet, which would be kind of incredible at this stage, but give a small introduction of who the man, the myth, the legend really is.
um, my name's Chris Reisner. I go by Reis2Occasion. It's a play on words with my last name. I got into PvP. Well, I played since launch. Like a lot of people took a hiatus from the game. Got into PvP 2020, started a YouTube channel, got kind of addicted to like Sylph tournaments and stuff, and played a lot, improved at PvP, started winning tournaments, and fast forward to today, I've been able to have some success in the play Pokemon circuit. I do YouTube and Twitch, and I also casted for the first time this season with
Heyo.
Play Pokemon.
There's a lot. You're already going through half the topics that I want to ask you there. But let's start at the beginning. Rice, I just want to point out, I think you have almost no catches, but you say you've been playing since the beginning, and you're like really good at PvP, and you have actually a lot of subscribers. Considering you have 78k catches. I was like, how did he get so big? He has like no Pokemon, but how did you do it? And when did you start doing like YouTube, Twitch, and stuff?
So I graduated college in the spring of 2020, and that was when the pandemic just started. So we went remote in my last semester of school, and I had a lot more time on my hands. So part of what I did in school was like digital media. So I already had some editing skills, and that's when I also just happened to get into PvP, and I started watching people like Zionic and FP Sticks. And I was like, like, I could do these types of videos too. So I just started doing it myself. And honestly, it was like my 5th video. I hit like number 35 on the GBL leaderboard when I didn't even really know what I was doing, to be honest. I just got kind of lucky. I think I was running Wigglytuff Toxicroak Lantern or something.
It's a good Pokemon, Wigglytuff.
And I got like 1,000 views on that video. And then like once you get some momentum on YouTube, like it helps kind of build that. So I got pretty lucky that like my 5th video already got some momentum, and then it started picking up pretty quickly. So yeah, 2020 is when I started YouTube, and then I started Twitch right after that. And kind of the same thing. Once I already had like a little bit of a following on YouTube, Twitch, you can kind of like instantly get a little bit of a head start. So yeah, that's when I started.
If you had to make a choice between Twitch and YouTube, which one do you think is better for you, like as a creator, or actually better for you just as a PvP player yourself who wants to kind of expand your audience?
For me, definitely YouTube, because in terms of a financial standpoint, YouTube is where like I make most of my revenue.
Interesting.
Yeah, YouTube, I make for me, maybe it's more so just because I have a bigger following on YouTube, but in terms of like ad revenue, for me, it's a lot more profitable from like a financial standpoint. So if I had to choose one, it would be YouTube.
Makes sense. Yeah, you name FP6 and King there. I believe both haven't really been doing a lot of content creation. Do you have anyone like that you look up, like from some? You're one of the how do I say this, content creators that have been lasting longer than the others have right now, right? You consider yourself being a veteran right now, despite still not 100k catches. I will name this repeatedly throughout the podcast.
Yeah, well, I didn't play for a good 2.5 years from like 2017 to mid 2019. Not that makes up for all the other years of playing for 78k, but yeah, it's kind of funny now that I'd be considered a veteran, because I felt like for a while I was kind of like the new guy on the block in terms of content creation and competing. Like this Reis guy, he's like climbing the Sylph leaderboards. But now it's kind of come full circle where it's really cool, where people like Pato Man, for example, like he gave me a shout out once where he said like I was one of the people that helped him learn PvP, and now he's like one of the best players in the world. So it's crazy how once upon a time I was learning from the FP Sticks, the kings of the world, and now there's players that have learned from me that are gonna probably beat me at Worlds in a month.
No, we have to stop them. We can't have those new players defeat us. Price. That's not allowed. Did you play Sylph from the start?
No, it was like midway through season 2 is when I started.
Fair. What did you think of it?
It was like my introduction to competitive PvP. So I had already goofed around in the Go Battle League a little bit, but I remember FP Sticks making a Sylph video. So that's I think where I first found out about it. And I looked on the little local map and I was like, can I like actually find a tournament near me? So I went to 2 in-person Sylph tournaments before the lockdown happened. And I remember in my first ever Sylph tournament in person, I went 3-1, and I was like the new guy that no one had ever heard of. Didn't really know what I was doing, but I knew my typing. So I knew if they swapped Scrafty, I swapped Wigglytuff. And by doing that, I went 3-1. And I remember at the end of the tournament, the tournament organizer was like, all right, it looks like we have a two-way tie at 3-1. This person and this person, congratulations, you guys. And then I had to raise my hand. I'm like, I think I also went 3-1. And then they're like, oh, yeah, look, it was actually a three-way tie for 3-1. So I tied for 3-1. And then I think I went 2-2 in the next in-person tournament against some good players in like Madison, Wisconsin. And then it all went remote. And then I just was like kind of addicted. I was grinding Sylph tournaments, pretty much doing a remote one every single day. Oftentimes doing draft tournaments. There was a small Discord server called the Osmo PvP server based out of Illinois. And we would hop in a Discord voice chat and we would do drafts. So like there'd be 10, 12 of us and we would just draft like a fantasy draft teams of 6 Pokemon and do rounds. And then we would do a live tournament and we would do those all the time. And I just got in a lot of reps and played a lot. And I think that helped me improve pretty quickly at it.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that a lot of people don't think about, especially in game itself, right? Because there's in the actual Pokemon Go, it's a blind 3 format for Go Battle League, but in the Play Pokemon circuit, it's show 6, pick 3, which was also what Sylph was. So, I mean, yeah, if you say you got addicted and you really got into this show 6, pick 3 format, thinking about that kind of format versus what we're doing in Play Pokemon, which do you prefer? Do you like this open Great League meta, or would you prefer if what we were doing in the Play Pokemon circuit was also more like Sylph, like every month is a different meta, or maybe not even every month because that might be too quick, but every couple months, or there's certain Pokemon now that are banned from using, or even a different format altogether?
My initial gut reaction is instantly to say restricted meta, because that's always been what I enjoyed so much, was going from meta to meta, being creative with team building and discovering those niche picks and trying to figure things out in Sylph. Because I always considered myself like a Sylph battler as opposed to like an open Great League battler. And I think SJ said the same thing when y'all had him on. So I've always considered myself like a restricted format type battler. But the other side of the coin is that's a lot of pressure, I feel like, to put on who makes the meta, and is if it ends up being, what if it ends up being a restricted meta where like it's everyone runs the same 6, you know? So there's a lot of nuances there, but if they could make it happen with like restricted formats, I think that would be amazing.
Yeah, it sounds like you already had kind of a local scene before we even had like these actual official local tournaments nearby. Is that still around your local scene? You do a lot of locals, right? Well, you also moved, of course.
I moved, so yeah. Well, now I'm in Dallas, Texas, so it's pretty active. We have this is almost like a plug, but in a couple of weekends, we at the last weekend of July, we have like 3 cups, 4 challenges in a single weekend for the Play Pokemon upcoming season. Like the points will count for the next season. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty active here. There's a lot of amazing trainers. Dunebug, Bopper, Arrow, Mango, just to name a few. And back in Wisconsin, it was a little bit more sparse. I think I would normally have to drive to Chicago for locals, which is like an hour and a half from me, or a little bit north towards like Green Bay, which is like hour and a half, 2 hours. So it wasn't as active in Wisconsin where I was, but yeah, Dallas is pretty crazy.
So let's actually jump into, before you moved there, even the first season of Play Pokemon. What were your, like, how did you even hear about it first, get connected with it, and then kind of give us the summary of how you did in that 2022 season?
Was that Milwaukee, the first one you played?
It wasn't the first tournament I played, but the first season, yeah, I did all. There was 3 North American regionals that season, so it was Indianapolis, Vancouver, Milwaukee. I did all 3, and Indianapolis was the first one. I drove down. How I heard about it, I'm not sure. I I don't remember exactly. I think just social media probably.
I think it was like EYC that really hyped it up first, right? Because that was
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
first time was a broadcast, and then it continued from there in NA to a broadcast.
Right, because Lurgan won the first in Liverpool, and it wasn't like officially streamed or anything. So we all just kind of heard about it. And then EYC had the first like big production hype broadcast.
Mm-hmm.
So Indianapolis was the first one I competed. I was actually the first streamed match, I think, of that tournament. And it was I played a girl who was newer. Yeah, she was like newer to the game, so she had like a pretty spicy team of
Cherim, I think, right?
like Machamp and Gengar, and I was able to win. And I think they had the graphics mixed up, so it was funny because the casters were like, "Wow, Reis spicing it up with Gengar and Machamp," and
like, "Oh no, he's just boring with Metacham. Never mind."
Yeah, it's like, "Oh no, he's just running Walrein and Trevenant." Yeah, so I won, and then I lost to a player named Dan the Man off stream round 2, who actually ran a Lucario. So his Lucario like totally core broke my team, and he lined it up against Registeel in both of my losses, I remember. So then I had to go through a loser's gauntlet where I played Dunebug, and then I beat him. I played Kevin Saludaris, Pranav, and a few more before eventually losing to Party Marty and losers finals. And then I go to Vancouver, where I lost to Wild Susan Boyle round 1 on stream, went 3-2 overall, lost to King Duck's Pool, who actually beat both Dunebug and I running an Obstagoon. And Obstagoon totally core broke both Dunebug and I's team. So Dunebug and I, no discussion between the two of us in terms of team building, both ran the Obstagoon for Milwaukee, thinking like, this thing core breaks everybody. Everybody's running Lickitung, Registeel, G-Fisk, Sableye, Trevenant.
Yeah, the Walrein Trevenant meta. Like,
Walrein, like, people are like, everyone's like 3-4 times weak to Obstagoon. So I thought it was a pretty clever team of Obstagoon and then a bunch of things that beat Metacham. It was Obstagoon, Charm9, Sableye, Trevenant, Azumarill, and then G-Fisk. So I had 4.
Basically like, saying, I dare you.
Yeah. So like no one brought Metacham against me, and the Obstagoon was just pretty free. So it worked really well. I got all the way to the grand finals. Had a tough matchup against Dunebug because his Shadow Nidoqueen was really tough for my team. My Sableye was really my only answer, and G-Fisk, I guess. But like Obstagoon breaks those two against me. So it was like a really tough matchup. I got swept. I went down 1-2. So I'd lost 5 out of 6 games. I tied it up. And then we tied in the decisive game 5. And then I was able to win in the next game. So that was like, to this day, probably my my proudest ever moment in PvP is that Milwaukee Regional from that first season. And then after I lived 20 minutes away, my family's cottage in Pewaukee, Wisconsin. So I hosted a big after party and we got to like celebrate, and that was like one of the best days ever. So that was the highlight of the first season.
And if Dunebug ended up winning, then you just wouldn't have invited them.
right. Yeah.
No everyone but Dunebug is allowed to this party.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Did you go to the NAIC as well that season?
I did. So I was already registered, but back then, I think it would have been more like frowned upon for me to compete since there were so few spots. And it was like...
Oh, it didn't cascade?
It did cascade, but right. It like if I had gone that far, right, it would have cascaded.
Yeah.
But I think back then it was a little bit more frowned upon since there were so few tournaments. It wasn't as accepted. Like if I had just gotten my invite and then if I had like competed again right away, I don't think back then it was as like socially acceptable to like win and then compete again. So I decided not to compete, but I still attended.
Yeah, that's fair. No, I remember that season very well because indeed that was what I found the Obstagoon season. Yeah, that was where it was the most viable. And then you went to the World Championships. I think you went down pretty early, right, in 2022. But then a sick losers run. Am I right?
Yes. So round 1, I play a trainer who I'd never heard of named Godon Hada, and he, yeah,
that's a name. Who's
and
that?
Yeah,
We
And
didn't
he
know that
sits
time.
down next to me and he's like, hello, Rise, like, nice to meet you. Like, he's like, I'm a fan of your videos. Like, I watch your channel. I'm like, hi, nice to meet you, man. And we sit down and dude, I just got completely outplayed. I think I won lead both games and he just completely outplayed me, like played perfectly to a T, baited me. I remember he wins the series by baiting my Swampert with a weather ball on his Shadow Kanto Ninetales and then landing the overheat to knock me out. And
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
yeah. And then so I lost round one and and obviously he went on to finish as the second place finisher to Rob. So just an amazing trainer. But then I did, and losing round one, I think I was proud that I was able to like keep my composure, and it almost took the pressure off a little bit where it was like, okay, I lost round one. The expectations are kind of out the window. Just play the best you can. And I think I took down Zephymaster, or no, sorry, not Zephymaster, Zygomatic, and then Dunebug, and then a couple other trainers from APAC. And then eventually, so I made day two, and then I lost to Lurgan Rocket day two. So still a nice loser's run, which I think made me tied ninth finish.
Yeah, I remember because you guys were playing, but it was off stream because most of the losers bracket was going to be streamed. But I just remember because there was a big screen there and everyone's sitting in the audience, of course, kind of watching. And Lurgan Rocket, of course, he went on this. His bragging point of Worlds the first year was that he was the person who knocked out all of the Americans like near the end of the time. I think he got
knocked
you the
out
second day,
Axon,
and
right?
then also Axon. Yeah, so
yeah,
I don't
and
know.
I was a little bit salty because I literally because I made day two, I went back to my Airbnb, got a good night's sleep, scrimmed, and Lurgan, let's just say, I don't think did that as his preparation.
No,
And he beat me anyway, so what you gonna do?
I think that's when he's at his strongest, when he has a few drinks before. Yeah,
I think so too.
yeah. I was just looking up your opponents at Worlds. Your fifth opponent, Danky is his name. He did play a pretty dank team with Araquanid Macargo core.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was kind of scary too for my team.
I can imagine, especially when he gets that far with that, right?
Yeah.
You've
No,
no idea what's
the
going on.
Araquanid was pretty scary against my team, but I think I had to kind of get the Charm 9 against it to do well, or maybe Nidoqueen as well. I had.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Okay, that's a pretty solid 2022 season. That was the first time you won a regional championship. I already want to spoil to those who don't know yet. Reis is the only player right now who has won a regional championship every season. So,
Yep.
to the 2023 season now. Let's see, where did that start again? Because I think you had a couple strong performances there, but it took a little while before you won.
Yeah.
Right? I
Yeah, it
believe it
took a
was San
little bit
Antonio.
of Arlington that season.
Arlington, yeah, also Texas. Yeah.
Texas.
Also,
yeah.
we have to remind everyone too, like this was before championship points as well. So to be able to qualify in these early years, you needed to get first or second at a tournament or place below that, but it would cascade down if the winners had already placed. So,
Yeah.
I mean, there was a little higher stakes in general because it's like you had to rely not only on your skill but also a little bit of luck facing the right teams and just being on point with your whole game. Not a lot of room for error, I think, in the first couple of years.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as we said, Arlington, right? That was one of the first one in 2023, and I believe this led up to your good friend Doombug again.
Yes. So I took some time off. I took quite a few tournaments off because it was a bit of a grind, right? Doing all three of the first season regionals and then Worlds. So there were several regionals I didn't participate in, and then I decided to make my first appearance in Arlington and had a really good run. I believe I lost on day one, actually, like relatively early to Major Bowman, and then I had a deep losers bracket run. Started day two losers side, got all the way to losers finals where I played Dunebug, and I had a favorable matchup this time where my Obstagoon was pretty much free. And I win game one convincingly. I win game two convincingly. I was in a favorable spot game three, and I threw the game pretty bad. And it was a little bit unlucky because I got a little bit unfortunate with some of the game mechanics where sometimes if you wait, it doesn't visually update to see your opponent's swap. So I actually broke it down on my recap video where you can slow it down where I'm expecting him to potentially catch. So I wait a turn, and if you pause it, you see on my screen, I still see a Trevenant, and Dune has already done an entire counter with his Obstagoon that he's already swapped in. So then I Night Slash and he catches, and it's unfortunate because that pivotal point kind of flips the game for him. If I had like been able to cross chop instead or like save the energy instead. So he's able to flip that game 3, and that pivotal point, and you just can't afford those types of mistakes and to give a player the caliber of Dunebug like a free game like that. And then he was able to reverse sweep the series, which was pretty devastating because, like you said, Amanda, like at that point, it's top 2 get that Worlds invite. So the difference between second and third is pretty massive, and to be up 2-0 especially was tough. And up until that point, you could say I kind of had Dune's number because I beat him in Indy, I beat him in Milwaukee, and then I beat him in Worlds. So he got his revenge there and ended up beating Bibalicious in the final and won the Arlington.
Yeah, but that wasn't your only tournament because, like we said, spoiler alert, you ended up winning a regional that season as well. Were there any other tournaments that you wanted to recognize before we actually talk about your regional win? Or should we just skip right through it?
We can't skip over Orlando, right? We have to mention Orlando.
5th place, yeah.
The only significant thing is the Shadow Ball, the knockdown incident. Yeah. We have to mention it.
Oh man,
up to this day.
Yeah, I heard it on a stream earlier as well. Yeah, yeah, it's memorable. Yeah,
it's memorable only because it's like, yeah, you're a very good player. Knockdowns were everywhere, and it's just one of those typing catch situation. I don't know. It's
I think it only shows how human you are, and that you are
exactly.
Yeah, it happens, right?
The nuance of it was, Jay Mills had 2 sky attacks, and I had 1 sky attack, and he won CMP. So if I don't throw immediately, so like I had my Noctowl with a move banked. So if I don't throw immediately, I lose because he would like get off a move and then he would win CMP. So I had to throw immediately, and I just forgot which side it was on. It wasn't like I'm throwing on this side. It was like consciously aware. I forget which side it's on, and I'm guessing which side.
Mm-hmm.
And then yeah, so that's how you Shadow Ball a Noctowl in that situation. And I want to credit Jay Mills because I think a lot of players would have like celebrated and like rubbed it in that situation, but he was very like courteous and was like, "Oh, dude, that sucks. Like, I'm sorry that happened." So credit to Jay Mills. He was like a really good sport about it.
Yeah.
Unlike that Inadequance guy, if it would have happened against him, you never would have.
I was rubbing
heard the end of it.
The thing with Jamels is I would rather rub it in his face because he also has Chandlers like his mascot now. So
yeah, you guys are like the chandelier.
Yeah, he was like, this guy's using Chandler. It's mine now. No, I like Jamels. He's a very good battler, very humble. Mm-hmm. But then your win, Knoxville. I think that was during Hoenn Tour? I think it was one of them because Bochum was on the same date, I think, and we expected less players to go there.
EJ,
yeah, and you took that opportunity as well, right? But I think Knoxville still had like 85 players. I think.
Yeah,
that's pretty big. Yeah.
So
that was a good run. I ran the Shadow Swampert Shadow A9 core, and Shadow A9 had only been like recently introduced, so it was still kind of unique. And it was super safe in the meta. Honestly, most teams' best answer was like Lantern or Galarian Stunfisk. And Shadow A9 could make those matchups uncomfortable. I remember playing Wadaj, like winners semis day 1, and Pocket was like whoever wins this is going to win the whole thing. And then I was able to beat Wadaj in a close series, and it was just one of those days where things just fell into place. I felt like I was able to make a lot of good reads, and if you watch back that run, I feel like I maybe lost like 2 leads all tournament. Like, was just making a lot of good team reads, I guess, and and the team was very flexible. So it was like a really dominant run. Because I think I only lost 2 games. I lost one to Wadaj and one to Onion Frank, and that was it for the whole tournament.
Yeah, I remember. This is the tournament where you caught Onion Frank on that ABA ball.
ABA to Trev.
Yeah. And you know what he did the next game? He did it again!
Again, yeah.
I remember that. That was an Onion Frank classic, yeah. But you won 3-1 there. Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty good.
And you were one of few trainers at that point that won 2 regionals in like one in each season, which was not something that a lot of people could make a claim for. And also, I kind of joked around with, you said EJB won that same weekend as well, because he theoretically can fall into that category because he won Bochum and he also won one of the last chance qualifiers, but that doesn't technically count as a regional or a special event. So I'm not sure where to place it for that, but he did get a first place in the first 2 seasons.
Yeah. And
but still, it wasn't very many people.
It was cool because the previous 2 losses I had come pretty close. So to like kind of, I felt like it showed a little bit of mental toughness to come back from getting reverse swept and then getting a situation where I pretty much threw the game in embarrassing fashion, to then just win in like an 18-2 tournament run to kind of like put that behind me, and then just play well. So, and then I tease the caster sometimes. I tease like Speedy about it because there was this narrative when I won Knoxville, like Reis2Occasion. He's been to so many tournaments. He's competed all season long. He tried so many times and finally he broke through. But like, it was my 3rd of the season. I think it seemed like I had like gone to a ton because I had gone really far in the previous 2. But I just thought it was kind of funny because like it was my 3rd one. So yeah, I kind of teased them about that. Like they made it sound like I had been to like 6 in a row or something, but
Question, Rice. You said that in 2022 it was a little bit frowned upon to go to more regional after you won one. But in 2023 you did do this, right? I think you got 2nd place at NAIC. What changed there? You got jealous of Mason's title?
I think the precedent changed a little bit. I think a lot of other players that were already qualified started competing again. And also it's kind of the norm in the other games. Granted, the norm in the other games, like they were already on the championship point system, but I don't know. I think it was a little bit more accepted in terms of, if you're going to qualify for Worlds, right, you're going to have to beat these players anyway. Or if you're going to try and win Worlds, you're going to have to beat these players anyway. So I think it was a little bit more accepted at that point. So, I decided to go to NAIC. And plus, at that point, I had never competed at an international. So I wanted to do that as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you are wearing a Japan shirt for those who watch the video versions. And that is where Worlds was at that year. So you come off of a pretty great IC run right after you won a title. How confident are you feeling about World Championships that year?
I was feeling pretty good. But I think in hindsight, I overcompensated. I overcorrected because I think if I had just run back my NAIC team, I think I would have potentially performed a lot better at Worlds because I felt really comfortable with that team. And I felt like it showed in my gameplay in NAIC where I was making a lot of neutral, great plays with like over farming and stuff and dancing around with energy. But I had this thought where like, since Wadaj and I both ran Shadow Charizard at NAIC and got to the finals, I thought like everyone was going to either copy our teams or try to counter our teams. So I totally changed up my team to something that was like good against Shadow Charizard and good against teams that would like counter Shadow Charizard. And I don't know, it was just a team that maybe I wasn't as comfortable with. So I think I kind of overcorrected, and that maybe did me over a little bit with a team I wasn't as comfortable with for Worlds.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then instead of getting, well, I think you got ninth, right, the first year. Someone else in this chat got, I believe, ninth overall at Worlds that year. So,
Oh,
but
yeah,
I did bring Shadow's art.
with many more competitors in that year too.
there was a lot of. I mean, I think that's the cool thing about. I mean, we saw how small it was the first year. It's only gonna, hopefully, fingers crossed, continue to grow and get more popular. But yeah, what I don't want to rub it in or anything, Rice. But do you remember your placement, or do you want to say, or should we just move on to the next season?
It was 2-2, whatever that was. So like tied 64th. Do you have
It's
it
not
up?
0-2.
Yeah, it's not 0-2. Yeah.
You didn't go negative. There you go.
Yeah, I beat Vonnie round 1 in it was a really crazy game. He ran the same line 3 games in a row, and then I lost to Kindness Dark. Yeah,
It's an APAC player.
APAC player. Kindness Dark is now Charming Chinda.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know that name. Yeah.
And then I won a match.
Also an APAC player, YY Pon.
Yeah, and then I lost to Teddiness from Thailand. And he just completely outplayed me, to be honest. I remember I led Frostlass into Medi both games and somehow lost. So that was pretty bad.
I have a question for you with this, because do you feel that they have a slight advantage in terms of the fact that you're quite a recognizable player? Not only do you play on stream often, but you are a content creator. People can analyze your play style and your moves and stuff. And then because I mean, if you think about the losses that you've had, a lot of them are to players that you don't really know as much about, and you don't know if they're an aggressive player, or if there's someone who likes to bait often, or do aggressive swaps or play more defensively. Do you think that comes into play at all? Or if you even could watch it, do you think that you would attempt to study those matchups?
I would say maybe there's something there to some extent, because if I'm playing someone I know well, like Arrow or maybe other North American players, like maybe I know some of their tendencies that could factor in. But
we don't know each other.
But I would say it more could come into play if it's like a day 2 scenario where I don't know anything about them really, but they know they're playing me and they could look into me, because I've competed a few times. I've been invited to, like, just for fun, APAC tournaments, like invitationals, and people have said like they studied my gameplay and stuff, and that like it like helped them. I don't know how much there really is to that. I don't think I am necessarily I have a particular play style, that's like predictable in that sense. So
that you know of, because it's your play style. But if someone is analyzing a lot of your videos, you might have some tendencies you don't even know about.
I think in the grand scheme of things, there's so many players, it's not realistic or feasible for someone to like prepare for one individual player,
True.
So in that grand scheme of things, I don't think I'm really at any sort of disadvantage. It was kind of funny because not to spoil maybe a future question, but when I won a tournament recently and then I had a bad performance in the next tournament, I got a question in my chat like, Reis, do you think you're at a disadvantage because like people watch your videos? I'm like, dude, like it's a very, I feel like that's a very recency bias question, considering like I had just won a previous tournament 2 weeks ago. So
yeah,
exactly.
That's kind of my thoughts on it.
One thing
I do actually do recently is I normally have IV graphics in my videos. And if it's Pokemon that I think I might be using in like a tournament, I might not have accurate IVs on those Pokemon.
You're preparing for if you face Lurgan Rocket. Very good.
And sometimes you get detectives in the comments like, Reis, those IVs don't have the correct CP.
That doesn't add up to this.
Yeah. No, but I agree though. Like as you say, I think for my locals, sometimes I feel like a player like Triptando does prepare a little bit for my kind of play style because then it's a smaller skill, right? But for like a regional, there's no way you prepare for specifically playing one
No,
player,
yeah.
right?
No,
Uh,
it wasn't like that more. I just didn't know if you felt like you had a disadvantage because we can't
yeah.
even really watch the streams of these different
Hmm.
regions to be able to see how different the play styles
Yeah.
are. Because a lot of times you see how the teams are even quite different that people are
Hmm.
qualifying with. So,
I
For
think the
sure,
only
for
yeah.
time
sure.
I had that personally was when I again played against Maxi in Utrecht, and he called a body slam bait on his Talon Flame. He was like, "Yeah, I would no shield with everyone, but with you, or I would shield with everyone, but against you, I no shield because you always bait." And like, I don't always bait. I don't always bait, but I say that, but
Yeah.
madman. Yeah. Okay, the 2023 season. Let's lead up to the first season. We had championship points. How were you going to approach this new system? I saw you went to a lot of more regionals here than in the previous one.
Yeah, went to more regionals. I also went to quite a few locals. Before I moved, I went to some in the Chicago and Wisconsin area. So I was able to get a little bit of a head start with championship points there. And I kind of timed my move where I was able to go to some that were closer to Wisconsin in some regionals there. And then once I moved to Dallas, I was able to like drive to San Antonio. Um, so yeah, geographically, I was able to do that. And I guess I feel like I've normally been a pretty consistent battler where I've normally been able to finish at least towards the top 8. So I felt like that was well suited for me in terms of the championship point system.
Were you trying to go for the travel award in general?
For
Was
sure,
yeah.
yeah. I felt like I was capable of getting the travel award for top 8. So that was something on my mind for sure.
Really? Because it took you a while before you actually won a regional again. How did you
Yeah.
feel throughout the whole season?
That's true. Yeah, started in Pittsburgh, didn't do that great. Lost to Dune. Uh,
Oh, that guy again.
that
Oh,
guy
just keeps
again.
going everywhere you go.
And after Pittsburgh, though, I had a nice string of top 8s, but for whatever reason, I kept top 8ing. And then as soon as I got to top 8, I would like melt. For whatever reason, it was like I would get to top 8 and then I would just get crushed. I don't know if it was like a lapse in focus, a lapse in concentration, if it was like, oh, I got here to top 8, it's like 100 points, it's a nice run. And then maybe
Yeah.
I lost that. Maybe now that it was like a championship point system and it wasn't that, maybe I lost that uh that focus where like that killer instinct where you're like
Hmm.
trying to go all the way. I don't know what it was, but um it was something that was I was aware of. And also in terms of the casting, that was something that I found out about in February and kind of had to keep on the down low for a while. So that was something that was on my mind. And I had a couple of competitions when that was kind of in the back of my mind. And I don't know, maybe subconsciously, like I was so anxious and so excited for that. It was like subconsciously affecting my gameplay a little bit because I had
Hmm.
Knoxville and an EYC during that time. And then
Nice.
once that was out of the picture, my next competition was LA, where
Yeah.
things kind of fell into place.
I'm
Yeah,
not
and not
sure.
only that, it was the last regional
Hmm.
for North America for the season, right? So I mean,
Yeah.
did was it even in your head at that point? Like, if I don't win this, I can no longer be a part of that club of winning a regional every season, or did you even have that thought?
Um, I didn't really have that thought of if I don't win, I can't be a part of that club, but I did have the more positive thought of like if I do win, I could be like someone that has won a regional every season, and that would be like a cool thing to try and manifest. So that's something I've tried to do is I've tried to like visualize and imagine um, myself, like on the stage, like winning. And back when I played sports in high school, that's something we would talk about. Just like on the bus ride there, like just visualizing yourself, like scoring, playing good defense, making shots and stuff. So it was definitely something I thought about and tried to like visualize of and yeah, it came together. And I talked a little bit about it in like my recap video. For some reason, I just felt super calm and at ease that whole weekend, and it
It's the
felt
LA
like it
vibe.
really, yeah, maybe it's that SoCal vibe, and it just it seemed like it just translated into the gameplay.
At
Yeah.
what point did you decide you were going to do that tournament? Because I think for a lot of people, it was a surprise that you were there. Because we
He,
talked about it in
he kept it a
Indianapolis.
secret from me, Amanda. I was making this graph, and then I
Like
was
the
like, "Wait,
morning of.
Rice, you're on the list. What?
Yeah.
Are you actually going?" And he's like, "Keep it a secret, please." I'm like, "Ugh."
I knew for a long time I was going. I was registered for like a month or two, but no, I kept it on the down low for a few reasons. I have family in Southern California that I was going to visit, and I literally haven't seen in like a decade. Like I haven't seen them since I think I was 13 years old. So I was going to spend the day with them on Friday, and I wasn't sure like if I was going to be able to hang out with people much.
Mm.
So that was one reason, because I was going to like be with my cousins, and also just from like a mental aspect is I'm really lucky as like a content creator, and in like this tight knit pond of a PvP community. Like I have a lot of people that will message me like, "You're gonna win this tournament, Rise. Like you're gonna do great. Like you got this." But it's tough, right? It's tough to win a regional, to do well at these tournaments. So sometimes I do feel like I have a little bit of an expectation, that pressure, and I thought it might just be fun to have people not know I'm going. And I actually like lied on my stream. Like I would say I wasn't going to LA. Um, and one of the casters actually messaged me in on Discord like, excuse me, like, do you have any plans this weekend? I'm like, no, I think I'm like visiting a park or something. And they're like, so is this a false positive that you're on the competitor registration list for LA? And I'm like, oh, you know what? I think I did register, like in case it filled up, but yeah, I'm not actually going.
And they're like, "How dare
Um,
you? What are you trying to do to me here?"
yeah, so that was kind of the reason. It was like I'd be visiting family, and I was leaving Sunday night as well. So I wasn't sure if I was going to like get to hang out with people really. And then also just like I thought it'd be kind of fun just to like show up and compete versus
Mhm.
like having that like expectation, you know.
Yeah. No, I don't think it was like a lack of, of focus or anything. Sometimes you might just get caught off by surprise as well, right? I remember we sprint for Knoxville, and we were like, "Oh, he's definitely gonna bail out your Bomber Snow with that Gligar save switch." So you swap in Dragonair, and then they had a really good Gligar, and they just got 3 hour race, and our whole plan just
Right, yeah.
foiled. Yeah, but before you won LA, you casted. Um, how did you get to that? I think you also did like sports commentary before, right? You even have like a redemption on your channel.
Yeah, the sports commentary redemption's more of like a funny thing. We just kind of have fun with it. But that was sports broadcasting is something I wanted to do from a relatively young age. I wanted to go into like the sports media sphere, and I went to Marquette University for college. I studied digital media broadcasting, and by my sophomore year, I started commentating basketball, volleyball, soccer, and my senior year, I did some lacrosse, which I didn't know at all. So I remember pulling like an all nighter watching 2 lacrosse games, just trying to like understand lacrosse. Um, but yeah, sports broadcasting was pretty much what I wanted to go into as a career. And then, like I said, when I graduated, COVID had just started. So sports were kind of gone for a while. And I got into this whole thing as a hobby. Um, but yeah, casting from that first inaugural season of the Play Pokemon Championships when Go got out of the circuit was something from the get go. Like I wanted to get into. I remember asking Speedy like who can I talk to? Who can I email? I was like, I made a reel. I was sending it in, and I was messaging. I was probably annoying Daniel when he got hired in his position, and followed up probably like 5 times. And eventually, after about 2 years, when I found out I was finally getting a shot, it was a really cool moment for me. So that was really exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, I do have to ask though, what does it mean for the future of you as a competitor? Because a lot of players, obviously, they do both. There are some really good trainers who do both. Um, do you have one that you are looking for more than? I mean, right now you are the only person who has a certain record of winning a regional every season. And again, maybe you're thinking it from the positive side of it would be cool to remain the only trainer, but that of course gets a little more difficult if you end up splitting things, right? If you end up casting versus playing versus, a whole lot of different accolades could end up changing.
Yeah, it's definitely something I've been thinking about a little bit more lately. And first of all, like I'm someone that's very I try to be like what's in front of me, you know. So I'm still awaiting as we have worlds and we get more information for next season. Like if I'll get more opportunities next season, so I'm still hopeful for that. But if I do get more opportunities next season, I love to cast as much as they're willing to have me. And I think so. Caleb had me on his podcast like right after I casted, and I at that point I think it was still like I was like I don't know. It was my mind was still so like I just felt so appreciative for that one opportunity. It was like I don't know, split it, but I think my passion in terms of like career and goals in terms of my long-term future would lean and trend more towards the casting side of things. So in terms of my immediate future and competition, right? Like I still like competing. The competitor in me like still feels like I can compete with the best. I feel like I can be a contender at Worlds.
Yeah, you're
I
all
am
right.
I don't I know how I'm also realistic. I know how difficult it is to win and I know how good everyone is. So um I'm realistic in that regard that it's by no means easy, but like I still think I can compete with the best of them. But in terms of my long term future, I'd love to cast as much as they're willing to have me, and in the long term, yeah, I'd almost lean towards casting in that regard.
I will. I just want to give you a big compliment with it too. I was also casting Indianapolis, so I couldn't hear as much of it. Obviously, right when it was going on, because that's when we were either doing interviews or doing other stuff. But listening back on it, I think for your quote first time casting, at least in an official capacity, you did absolutely incredible with it, and it really showcased that not only are you a good player, but you know what you're talking about, and you can keep the stream going and everything. It was very entertaining.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
When Rice came up, the volume also went up for me. Um, just kidding. That doesn't mean that I put all the others down, but I think I was doing a watch
No,
party, right?
interesting, interesting. I'm gonna have to make a note of that.
um, yeah. What did I want to say? Yeah, Worlds. So last year was tough, right? How do you feel about Worlds going into Worlds this season in Hawaii? Do you have that West Coast advantage now? Is Hawaii is not really West Coast.
Uh, it's like
I,
middle of nowhere.
I consider it closest to West Coast.
Yeah, well, it's
Yeah,
very
it's still
west of the West Coast.
still a 5 hour flight. True.
Um, honestly, I haven't prepared much for it yet, so that's something I still have to do, and I will put some time and effort into team building and prepping. And we have one challenge this weekend locally, and in a few weekends we have that weekend I mentioned of a ton of locals here. So I think that'll be a good feel out and test of like a team and maybe make some adjustments. So how am I feeling right now? A little bit unprepared, behind the eight ball, but we'll try and figure it out.
All right. Makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah. Right. You
It,
still have to prepare.
yeah, but if you had to face Natterquins at Worlds, who do you think would win that battle?
And Adequins is really good.
Ah,
I feel like he beats me more often than I beat him for sure.
The stats mean nothing, though. Let me emphasize that. Tho also won always against Stone Collection in any format, and then you face him once and play Pokemon, and you get swept.
that's
Like the stats mean nothing.
Hmm.
So from my side, I wouldn't know.
but
If you
yeah.
run Wigglytuff like you did in LA, I probably lose because I'm not good against
You
Wigglytuff
also
usually.
run Wigglytuff. What are you talking
Yes, but
about?
I am the RPS here. If other people play RPS, it turns against me.
Uh, Speaking of statistics and battling rivalry, we talked about a little bit earlier but you played Dunebug quite a bit, and you guys are known as the iconic rivalry of Pokemon Go. I think you know this, right? But what are your thoughts on this friendly rivalry that you have between you and Dune?
Well, honestly, that's the biggest compliment you can give to me because I consider Dunebug the best player in the world. So to be considered his rival, I mean, would be at least means I'm in the same sort of uh, stratosphere, same or conversation. So like to be considered a rival to Dunebug as a player is a big compliment. I take that as a compliment. And he has been so dominant this season with 3 regional titles, which is just ridiculous. He's been so dominant with 3 regional titles that you almost forget about like second place EYC, and then also I think it was 3rd or 4th in Sacramento. Like you just forget about that. So if it wasn't one other cool thing about LA winning that regional is like, I feel like maybe it kind of kept the rivalry alive, because if I hadn't been able to win that regional, I don't know if we could really still call it a rivalry with how dominant he's been. But maybe that kept it alive a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Before going into our final question, I want to ask you, how do you feel about the changes to the qualifications for the next season?
Um,
Do you know them off the top of your head?
yeah, so it's top 75 for North America as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to like a 500 point
Yeah,
threshold.
yeah,
And then it's 50 for Europe, right?
correct. Yeah,
And LATAM. Yeah, I've seen mixed opinions on it online. And then lesser points or it's best 4 for locals. Uh, so yeah, I've seen mixed opinions. I do think the decrease in locals probably is for the best, just because for certain regions it does seem maybe a little bit overpowered if you could rack up like 390 points from locals to qualify for worlds. I guess, well, now that it's like now that it's not like you couldn't strictly qualify for worlds just based off locals, maybe it's a little bit different. But I think the regionals and internationals getting more credence over the locals is probably for the best. And then also internationals being included in the best 6 might be a little bit better, just because if someone goes to all 3 internationals,
mm-hmm.
that seems like very
Yeah,
overpowered, and a little bit more pay to play, which there's always going to be a little bit of that in this
Mm-hmm.
format, right? But I
yeah.
think in terms of that, I see where they're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And I know some people have some issues with it. I think Axon expressed some concerns with it.
Yeah,
Um,
because basically you don't know. For some players, you don't know until the last moment of the season if you qualify or not.
Well, I think that'd be a lot of players, right? Because if someone does really good at one of the like NAIC, that changes the whole script potentially. That knocks a lot of people down
Mm-hmm.
farther.
yeah.
So yeah.
One thing I do wish maybe they communicated a little bit more to us was if there is a LAIC travel award now, because now Go is going to be added to the International Travel Awards, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
If there is an LAIC travel award given out for Go, I wish they would have communicated that to us, maybe, to make us aware of how that would have worked if it's based off how the latter third of last season played out. Because I think if our speculation is correct of how it's going to work out, I think Pocket and Elam pretty much have it secured for NA, so they're going to get travel awards to LAIC, which is awesome for them. So that's pretty insane, because like Elam, who's a super cool dude, he basically his top 4 in NAIC not only snuck him into 8th place to get the travel award for Worlds, but also is potentially clinching him a 3,500 travel award to LAIC,
Yep.
which is like insane.
Yeah, it also changes people's strategy, right? So it's like, oh, like when am I going to try to make the regional competitions if you are choosing to travel to more of them, right? Because it starts over after LAIC, and then it's the next ones for travel award for EUIC and for NAIC after that for those who maybe aren't super familiar with that, as it's going to be new for us. Something else that's new this year, I think this is confirmed, but so in the past, people from India or like the APAC regions, they couldn't even get championship points. But now, if they compete in NA or in Europe or Latam or whatever, and they win the tournament, they still secure their world's ticket off of that win, which would not have happened before. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, very cool. And
That could change things. Yeah.
yeah, I could definitely see them making a trip over, if especially if they go on a vacation, to the States and plan it around maybe a regional that happens to coincide. That could be pretty cool.
So one more question on, I guess, that sort of topic. If you don't get the LAIC regional and you don't end up casting it, knowing this new championship point system, are we going to see you at LAIC competing?
I don't think so. I don't think I'm in contention for LAIC Travel Award because I would only have I say only, but I would have the LA regional win, but that would be pretty much it because I didn't do very well at NAIC. So yeah, I don't think I'd be in contention for it because pretty much everyone that top cut right at NAIC would have like the equivalent as my LA win, just because the international points are so much more.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't plan on attending LAIC. I guess I'll never say never, but yeah, I don't plan on it.
Okay.
All right. Then we are going into our final question, Reis. Are you familiar with this?
Yes. I've watched it before, yeah.
He's ready.
Very good, very good. I'm going to ask you, who do you think is considered a crap roller? Someone who is really good but not super well known. Because still, people might not know they're qualified even, but they could actually win it. And then who's a champion? Someone you do know, someone everyone knows, and could also win it.
I know this question, but I didn't prepare answers for you. So, someone who's not as well known. Do these have to be world's qualified players?
No, it doesn't have to be.
Okay.
Might even be someone at a local. You're like, whoa, I didn't realize that these can take on these big names. Or
I think he only has big names as his locals.
right. Let's go with SS Thorn, the youngster. Recent addition to our team. I mean, he had that one nice run in Toronto, right? But other than that, hasn't had a whole lot of like airtime. He recently started streaming and is just consistently on the leaderboards and has a whole lot of potential. So I'll give Thorn a shout out. And then someone who is known who could go all the way. I don't want to pick someone like too obvious. Let's see.
Can pick me.
I need some Jeopardy theme music.
I'll add it in post.
What about Pato Man?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Give a shout out to the youngsters. Yeah, Pato Man.
That's the second time you name him. Did he beat you before or something?
No, it was he was the one that I mentioned. How like originally I felt like I was one of the newer people.
Oh yeah,
I was rising in the ranks.
Yeah.
And then he shouted me out, and now he's like one of the best.
And you shouted him out. Okay, return the favor. Makes sense. He's pretty good. He's muy bien.
Pretty consistent. And I liked because he had, was it 2 second place finishes before he won?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And I just thought that was a really cool moment. When we look back at like the history of the Play Pokemon Championships, like the emotion after he beat Tonton, that was a really cool moment.
Yeah, I was like, whenever people really show like a lot of emotion, it makes me sometimes like tear up too. But you could see it in his face, and he was like pumping his fist, and I was like, oh man, I would have been so happy for Tonton as well. But you just kind of get swept up in the moment when you see people really caring about something.
Yeah, you just see how much it means to him. Um, like my first regional win against Dune is when I like jumped out of my chair and like pumped my fist, because especially it was like I was in a situation, right, where I'd lost 5 out of 6. The game came down to the wire. I didn't know if I was going to win, to be honest. So it was just like the culmination of all that versus normally I'm like very stoic, and you very seldom see me like celebrate. But then there are those certain moments where it just kind of like it comes to you, and it just kind of comes out.
Yeah, yeah. No, maybe we'll see it at Worlds again. We'll
Maybe,
have to see
hopefully.
that finals or something.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Rice, for making time for us today to come on and walk us through your impressive journey through all 3 seasons. Perhaps continue your win streak every year again. Yeah, thanks so much.
Yeah, and I hope maybe we can cast together sometime this year. That would be pretty darn cool.
Oh,
Yeah,
you're gonna
I would love
abandon
that.
EU again?
Yeah, so that then maybe Martijn would actually listen to me cast instead of turning the volume down.
Oh, come on.
But yeah, well, yeah, we're sorry we're so inconsistent for the listeners. The attempt is every Thursday. We don't quite always get to it, but we always want to have quality guests on like Reis, and so to ensure that we do that, it might not be as often. I'm really happy this one ended up going through. Thanks again for your time, and we'll catch you all in the next one.
Yep, see you next one.
Bye.